In his presence there is comfort. In his presence there is peace. When we seek the Father's heart, we will find such blessed assurance in the presence of the Lord.
Good morning and welcome to Unveiled, a presentation of the Church Street Church of Christ in Lewisburg, Tennessee. Unveiled is simply a one-on-one conversation between Christian people designed to help each of us, as followers of Christ, become more aware of and better respond to the presence of God at work in our daily lives. Okay, today my guest is Larry Smith. And Larry, first of all, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to be here with me.
Well, Kyle, I'm very excited to be able to be here to have a conversation with you and kind of fill in some blanks in my life. I have found the program to be very interesting to take and find out things about other people. So I'm just proud to take and be able to take and speak to you about it.
Okay, so let's begin today by just taking a few minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to our listening audience and to me. What would you like us to know about Larry Smith?
Well, if the good Lord lets me live to the 20th of next month, I'll be 68 years old. I am the ninth child I'm number 9 out of 9 kids, my brothers and sisters. I was the first one that was to be born in the hospital here of Leonard's Hospital. My parents were Claude and Ruth King Smith, and they lived in the Cornersville area. As a result, I took, and my early recollections was that we lived on a farm of Robert Kinnear. And basically, the family was sharecroppers. And it was a dairy farm. Now, that name, Robert Kinnear, will probably surface again sometime after a while. And but as a result, the dairy farm there, my brothers and sisters, they all helped on that part right there. But I remember some of the things that come about that my dad used to talk about the hard times that we had. And the hard times were a couple from his days when they went through the Depression era. And that was a time frame that a lot of people went through. And the people that suffered through that, I don't think that they really ever got over it. In our livelihood, I think what was always focused was for us survival, trying to get by, to do the best we could. And as a result, I guess with the number of us, we didn't have an affiliation with the church. None of us went to church. And in fact, I didn't know a great deal about it. I don't think I probably went to church till I was probably on up in about the 3rd grade. And but I had the good fortune to take and be able to attend Cornersville School. And I tell you, that was really a good school. The kids were all great, the teachers were good, and they were just, everybody was good. It was just a good school for us to have been able to, me to have been able to do. And so presently, now, I'm married, and Joanne and I just took and celebrated 47 years together, the 22nd of November. And we live on a farm at country farm out there at Catapa. And
is that your family farm?
No, it was furthest out, far away from Cornersville. It's actually 11 miles out there. And with that being said, that we married there in it was 74, and set up housekeeping, and we've been there ever since. You know, and we're together. We have 3 daughters, and April, Angie, and Amanda. And I do find that to be interesting that they had the good fortune that they went to Cornersville School also. And Joanne, she was a Giles County girl, and she was from the community of Campbellsville, is where she was at. So today we have 4 grandchildren, and I had a career in driving and working in the propane business, which I retired out of just this past March after 37 years and 7 months. So presently, you know, I take and serve in the elder capacity at the Catalpa Church of Christ, and then I teach the adult Sunday school there. And so anyway, at night, you know, in the distance that I've come through life, you know, at night when I pillow my head, I like to remind God to guide my ways if I live to see another day. And oftentimes, being old school, I rise early. And when I do, I like to get my Bible study, and I like to get my prayer said. Then I like to tell God, thank you for another day. It's a great day that thou hast blessed us with.
Yeah.
And I let the day unfold.
That's great. So that's a pretty impressive resume that you've given us of your life. So what I'm interested in is let's hone in on that a little bit. Some things that you said. You did not really even go to church until maybe the 3rd grade. So I'm interested, when you look back in your background, in your childhood, up through your school years, what was your religious experience like? Where did it begin? How did it begin? How did you discover God in your life?
Well, when I think about it, it's actually like it started unfolding at about the 3rd grade, I think, because Daddy had bought a truck. He bought a farm, and we moved up to that, and I remember that. And he bought a truck and started hauling livestock, and he was doing pretty good, you know. And then as a result, he took and bought a house and lot in town, and we moved to town. Well, we were within 3,000 feet of the Cornersville Church of Christ. And so anyway, I found in school, I had seen pictures of Christ. I had seen the cross, and I had heard things, but it just didn't all come together. And so anyway, but when I was in about the 3rd grade, we started to the church down there. Mama carried me and Bobby in the church, and I was involved in the Sunday school. And as a result, Miss Chun was the teacher. Fine woman. She was really a sweet gal. But after I'd been there for a while, and she asked me, she said, Larry, you want to take and say the prayer for us at the end of Sunday school? And I said, no, ma'am. I could hear the other kids giggle, and I was taken back because I was pretty reserved because we didn't get out a lot, and I was bashful. And, you know, I got to tell this, and I remember this to that day, but Susan Lane's brother, George Ray, he came to my rescue. He wrote me out. He come to me. He wrote me out a prayer about 3 lines long. And so anyway, I went back with better confidence at that time, and so it worked out to do really good. But I had seen people that was involved in church. One that stands out to me also is Ronnie Osteen. He was really involved in church, and I thought, how do you do that? How do you stand before a crowd? You know, I couldn't grasp that. 'Cause like I said, I was probably my own worst critic. You know, so I just didn't really step out a great deal on that.
Let me ask you this,
yes,
if I could interrupt. You said that your mother took you and 2 or 3 of your siblings with you to church when you were in 3rd grade. What was the inspiration for that? Was it her idea? Was it you asking questions? Or how did that get started?
Well, Mama was really a quiet woman. She didn't really say a lot. But come to find out, she had been baptized before she had gotten married.
Mm.
And so anyway, with that being said, and then her daddy, I found out about that he was very devout. You know?
Okay.
And so anyway, that's how that came about for us to take. And Mama continued on going to church even after we growed up and left out. Sure, yeah.
So from the third grade, when you started attending, were you attending fairly regularly at that point?
It was hit and a miss.
Mm-hmm.
It really was. But it had a hold on me.
Mm.
It did. And but by the sixth grade, after something like the sixth grade, you know, I started missing really good. And so anyway, I took and didn't go very much at all. And then it wasn't long till I took and got old enough to get a job. And so I started working at a store. And then I took and started dating a girl, and she invited me to church. And they're going to ask me to say prayer because I was that reserved and still, you know, just didn't know. And so anyway, but it worked out, and I went some with her, and then it kind of dwindled out from there. And so anyway, after that, I went ahead and up in 73, I graduated, and so anyway, I changed jobs at that time.
So at what point then, if you look back on all of those days and those experiences, where would you identify the place in your life where you said to yourself, you know, I believe God is real. I believe that my life needs to be based around Him and His teachings? Well,
in 73, this is where Joanne comes into the picture.
Okay.
Because in 73, I remember there was a girl at Lewisburg that I had was acquainted with. So anyway, she had a girl that took and sitting in the car and that had come to visit her. So I looked over. I thought, that is the most beautiful girl I ever seen in my life. You know, boy, you know, I wanted to get to know her, but I was taken back, you know. Well, as a result, you know, she was staying with her friend. Her friend was staying with her for about a week, I think, you know. So I got to meet her and talk to her, and she was so pleasant, sharp as a tack. I mean, she was. And her name was Joanne. And so anyway, as a result, you know, Joanne went back home. And so anyway, but I got to tell this story, a short story if I can, that in between in school there was another woman that come into mind. Her name was Joanne, and she was always good to me. She was real pleasant. She really was. And I liked that name, Joanne. And so anyway, as a result, so when this girl came up, Joanne, there was some bells going off. It really was. And so, as a result, you know, in 74, in May of 74, the girl come back. And I was coming through Cornersville in a stock truck, you know, and this girl was sitting there at the park in Cornersville. And boy, when I seen her, I said, this hot load of freight's got to wait. I got to get a phone number. So I turned around and I went back and we had a conversation. She was going to be there for a few days. So anyway, I got a number and then I got the nerve up to ask her out. And so anyway, it started blessing me from there on that. And then Joanne started inviting me to church. Joanne was a church-going girl.
And so her family had been raised in the church?
Early, her grandmother had a great influence on her. And so she didn't get into church on up a little bit, you know, in her early, before a teenager. But she was really going at that time. And this is another thing that I thought was really good. This place, Robert Kinnear that we took and lived on the place. Well, anyway, I was writing letters to Joanne during the week, and Joanne would write to me. Well, anyway, Joanne went to the mailbox to get the mail. Well, the mailman was none other than Robert Kinnear. So anyway, he was asking about the Smith family, and so they talked about it. And so I was the youngest of the Smith family in that connection of that. But, and then as a result, like I said, I had took and gone to church some with Joanne, and I like things, you know, and of course I had asked her, they're not going to ask me to say the prayer. I wasn't ready to step out on that yet. And so in August, I guess it was that Daddy and I went to an auction sale, and we bought a farm together. And so anyway, in November of that year, Joanne and I was married, and that was in 74. And it's a good community over there. The people that go to Catalpa Church, they took and started inviting us to church just immediately, and just good people. And there was a small attendance, and we started going to church there. And then I was baptized into Christ in 76, the last week of July in 76. Yeah.
So you graduated from high school in 73?
I did.
And then you got married in 74.
Right.
Did Joanne graduate in 73 also, or?
No, she graduated in 74.
Okay.
In May of 74.
And so was it right after her graduation when you got married?
It was. Yes, it was in November of 74.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you bought this farm where you have always lived since you've been married?
I have. Dad and I bought it in 74, and then Joanne and I married in November and set up housekeeping. Because I was planning on marrying this girl. This was the one I wanted to marry, and so anyway, I was glad that it all worked out that way.
So from the day that you were married, living in Catalpa, you were attending the church there pretty soon, or
real soon afterwards, really soon afterwards, yes.
And you've been there ever since, I assume.
Yes. And
now you're an elder in that church, is that right?
Right. Well, Brother Doyle Hastings, and not to take away from anybody else, everybody else was very encouraging, but Brother Doyle, he was after me all the time, because it was a hit and a miss at a point in time, you know. And I hit a lot, but I just didn't go as often as I should have. And I went to preaching more so than than everything.
Was he the preacher?
No, he was an elder in the church.
Okay.
Yeah. But then the other elders, the deacons, were very encouraging. And then Brother Carpenter came on the scene, and he was encouraging, always trying to get me involved in stuff. And it worked out. I guess it was probably about 80 when everything started coming together then. Yeah.
So now, as a man who has been a Christian and been serving the Lord for a number of years, as you, from this stage of your life, look back and think about these stories that you've been sharing, what role do you think God was playing all along in making sure that your life path crossed with Joanne's, for example? You said she was from Giles County, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so it's, many people in the world would say, well, that was just kind of happenstance, coincidental. What do you think God was up to?
As I reflect back on it now, all the way, it was God all the way. And at that time, I know Joanne would say things like, this is from God. She knew a lot more than I did. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, it was God in that plan all the way. It was.
So you clearly saw God at work through your mother as she started taking you to church around the third grade, off and on.
Right.
You clearly can look back and see God bringing your life and Joanne's life together, where you didn't really go to school together necessarily, but you crossed paths in an unusual way, and so that was the hand of God as well. What about from the time you got married forward, when you started a family of your own, or your work career? What are some evidences to you now when you look back that God has been a part of your life?
Well, in 77, we had a girl, our first daughter, and April. And I was asking for a girl. Sure enough, I got a girl. I did. And then in '79, Joanne became pregnant. I was asking for a girl. I got another girl. I did. And I know now God's hand was in it all the way. And then maybe not just completely on it, but I knew He was in it. I did. And then I started driving a school bus in '77, and then I was farming, and of course, that's feast and famine, and so as a result. But in '80, I think that's about when things really started coming to a head at that time, and. What had happened is that there were a few things that was going on. I was pretty unsure. I was lacking in some confidence, and I was beginning to feel like I was getting bitter, and I was getting angry. And as a result, there was, on one side, there was pride. Because I think, I have to be honest, I think I was dragging the world along with me early on. I didn't, the night I was baptized, I think I was all in. And then as a result, I think I turned back a little, And then on the other hand, I had the fear of failure, And then to confound things, Daddy had approached me. He had bought another farm, and so he approached me to take and buy him out of this farm. And so in a way, I knew it was a struggle. So anyway, that was at the time that I just really broke. I really did. That my faith was not where, and my commitment to God was not where it ought to be. So anyway, there was a passage that I remember, and I'd like to relay, and it said, "When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut the door, pray to the Father which sitteth in secret. And thy Father which sitteth in secret shall reward thee openly." Well, I didn't exactly go in the closet, but I went on the back side of the farm, and I broke. I just poured out my heart. And so anyway, as a result, when I came back to the house, it was shortly afterward, I remember Joanne put her arm around me, and she told me, she said, "Larry, we're going to be all right." And it wasn't hardly any time till there was just like a sense of peace that had just come over me. Well, during that, I started going to church more, regular, better, taking part in the church better, waiting on the table, then to prayer. I got up enough nerve. I went to the bank and talked to them, and I just started seeing everything just really unfold. That the banker, Doug Jett, and Bill Lund were so pleasant. They gave me a deal to where that I could take and sell my crop at the end of the year and pay good market pay. Man, what a blessing it was. And so anyway, it's just like everything just took and started coming together then. And then I think it was like in '83, I went into the propane business, and I met so many good people and encouraging people and then strengthening people, and I met them from all different walks of life. And so anyway, my faith just continued to grow more, and I was more into studying and reading a lot more than I had been, and things were just unfolding so wonderfully and has continued on down through the age. And there's been some setbacks in life as life presents itself to us.
So what turn of events brought you and Joanne to start fellowshipping and worshiping with the congregation here at Church Street?
Well, our attendance at Catappa was an older group, so it's finally gotten down to a smaller amount. But as a result, we just have the Sunday morning and preaching in the Bible class, and then we didn't have an evening class and a Wednesday night class. So anyway, we need to do that. So we started coming up here, and then Harold, because we knew Harold came, and so he and Lou had attended here for so long, and so they was pretty instrumental about the draw to be. And then we knew several people around here, and then I had listened to your program on the radio too, and so anyway, that was inspiring, and I always appreciated your message. Yeah.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you, and you and Joanne have come in, and we see you on pretty much every Sunday night and every Wednesday night, and you've made yourself very much a part of this family, and I hope it's been a blessing to you, because it's certainly been a blessing to us.
It has been. I've enjoyed everybody that I've got to meet. And Joanne and I, in the earlier day, we reached out to, went to different congregations when they had the gospel meeting going on, and built a lot of strong relationships. And so it's just the thing about it, it just kept getting more enthusiastic, being a Christian.
Yeah.
It did.
So as we kind of wrap things up today, I'm interested in knowing, what would you say God is busy doing in your life right now?
Well, I like continuing to take and read and study and calling on Him. I like to take and be encouraging to others. And I think that's one of the better things that I can do, is to reach out to others and be a source of strength to others, and being able to go to them in their time of need. And sometimes people just need a voice to talk to them, a handshake, a friendly smile, just in certain ways to be able to reach out to others. And it just seems like it falls into my lap to do really good.
You know, it's amazing when you start to realize that God has always been, He is, and He always will be. God never changes. He's always been a part of our lives. We don't always acknowledge that at the time, but now as you look back, you've seen that God has been a part of your life all along, and it's very clear that God is a part of your life right now. And you and I both have every hope that God will continue to be a part of whatever comes in the future.
Right. If I could, I would like to make mention of about three more things. Is because of being a Christian and being in Christ, I have had the opportunity to take and baptize my baby girl.
Oh.
When she came up out of the water and jumped around my neck, I just melted. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And then I think I have had a hand in baptizing 6 people and conducting 15 funerals. And so, and I, not bragging, I'm just saying I'm thankful that I was able to have that part in that.
When you give your life to God, He gives you opportunities to serve in ways you never imagined.
Absolutely. And I'm not that bashful kid anymore.
It's come a long way.
I have.
To God be the glory.
To God be the glory. And great things He has done.
That's right. Well, Larry, thank you so much for being with me today. It's been an enjoyable conversation, and I appreciate your time.
Oh, and thank you.
All right, that's this week's edition of Unveiled. We want to thank all of our listeners for being with us and invite you to be back with us again next week. You have been listening to Unveiled, a presentation of the Church Street Church of Christ in Lewisburg, Tennessee. I am Kyle Bolton, the pulpit minister at Church Street, and I would like to personally invite you to come be with us during our times of worship and Bible study together. We meet every Sunday at 9 o'clock a.m. for our morning worship, followed by Bible classes for all ages at 10:15 a.m. We meet again on Sunday evenings at 6 o'clock p.m. We also have a midweek meeting for further Bible study on Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. I would also like to invite you to tune in to this radio station every Monday through Saturday from 6:40 to 6:45 a.m. for our daily devotional program called Upreach. Thank you for listening. Have a blessed day.
In His presence there is comfort. In His presence there we seek the Father's heart, we will find such blessed assurance in the presence of